In the heart of the misty mountains lay Evernight Valley. It was a place shrouded in fog and mystery, feared by everyone who lived nearby. For deep within the misty mountains lived a terrible dragon, one so powerful and vicious that when he roared, it would turn day into night. That's what the villagers believed. Anyway, but the truth was far stranger than those terrifying tales. It was in a small village nestled at the foot of the misty mountains that a young farm girl named Mira lived with her parents. Unlike the other villagers, Mira never felt truly frightened when she heard stories of the dragon. Instead, she always felt an unexplainable pull towards the valley. Every evening after sunset, she would sneak out of her house, climb up the hills near her village, and peer into the misty distance. All she could see was thick fog, but for some reason, she never felt scared. She wondered if the scary dragon was real or just a story told to keep children from wandering too close to the mountains. One night, while gazing at the dark valley, Mira heard a loud roar shake the ground beneath her feet. A moment later, a monstrous shape flew past her, silhouetted against the moon. With a flick of its tail, the creature stirred the leaves and grass around Mira, and she could feel the heat from its body, even from this distance. Frightened but determined, Mira ran down the hill and into the village, where she burst into the town square, breathlessly telling everyone what she had seen. But no one believed her. "Don't be ridiculous," said the village elder, a stern man with a bushy white beard. "You must have imagined it. That is the home of the great night terror, and it is forbidden to go there." The other villagers nodded, their faces grim. "The night terror is a terrible monster," one of them said, his eyes wide with fear. "If he ever leaves his valley, he will bring darkness upon us all." Despite their warnings, that night, Mira couldn't sleep. As soon as the moon replaced the sun, she snuck out of her house again and headed for the mountain. Now more determined than ever to find the night terror, she climbed higher than before, her small figure dwarfed by the huge boulders around her. When she finally reached the top of the hill overlooking the valley, her heart skipped a beat. There in front of her was the same clearing she had seen earlier, but now it was empty. Had she imagined seeing the monster? Just as she started to lose hope, she noticed something strange. The wind seemed to be coming from inside the valley, pulling everything towards it, even her cloak. Hesitantly, she stepped forward and vanished from sight. When Mira opened her eyes, she realized she was inside the valley, enveloped by an eerie silence. All around her were giant trees with gnarled branches that clawed at the sky, their leaves rustling ominously in the wind. She continued walking until she saw a narrow path leading further into the forest. Taking a deep breath, she followed it, pushing aside hanging vines and stepping over fallen logs. The deeper she went, the darker it became, as if the trees were trying to block out the faint sunlight filtering through the canopy above. Suddenly, two glowing eyes appeared in the gloom, followed by the slithering of scales. A huge black shape emerged from behind a tree, blocking Mira's path. Its eyes narrowed and it hissed, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Terrified, Mira stumbled back, but tripped over a root and fell onto the ground. The creature took a menacing step forward, and Mira closed her eyes, waiting for the end. After what felt like an eternity, the creature spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "Why have you trespassed into my domain, human?" Mira opened her eyes and looked up at the night terror, as she now knew him to be. Despite his fearsome appearance, he didn't seem angry, just curious. Taking a deep breath, she stood up and said, "I wanted to see you, to ask why you keep scaring our village." The night terror let out a frustrated sigh. "So you have come to slay me, little human. You are the 10th to try." Mira shook her head. "No, I didn't come to fight you. I want to help you." The night terror stared at her in disbelief. "Help me? How could you possibly do that?" Mira thought for a moment. "Well, you seem lonely, and I get a little lonely sometimes, too. So we could be friends." The night terror was taken aback by her answer. No one had ever offered to befriend him before. Usually, they charged right at him with swords raised, ready to fight. A sad smile touched Mira's lips. "Are you really the monster the villagers say you are?" she asked softly. The night terror shook his head slowly. "No, I am not a monster, but this form is cursed upon me. I used to be the guardian spirit of this valley, but a powerful sorcerer trapped me here with a spell. Only someone who approaches me without weapons and sings a song of courage can break the curse. Mira's eyes widened. So you're not a monster, just misunderstood. The Night Terror nodded sadly. From that day on, Mira visited the Night Terror every day, bringing him news from the outside world and singing songs to cheer him up. Sometimes the songs were lively and upbeat, and sometimes they were slow and mournful. But always they were filled with courage and kindness. The Night Terror listened patiently, his heart gradually thawing at the sound of her beautiful voice. He told her about the glorious history of Evernight Valley before the curse, and how much he missed the warmth of the sun on his scales. Mira listened intently, her sympathy growing with every tale. She thought long and hard about how to break the curse. She knew that, whatever she did, she had to be brave enough to face the Night Terror in his true form. But she wasn't sure if she was ready for that yet. One day, as Mira was sitting at the edge of the clearing, the Night Terror approached her, his eyes filled with sadness. "Mira," he said softly, "I have waited so long for someone like you, but I fear it may be too late. The curse has lasted for many years, and my hope is fading with each passing day." Mira looked up at him, her heart aching for his pain. "Don't worry, Night Terror," she said bravely. "I won't give up. I promise you that." And with that, she picked up her flute and started to play. The melody flowed from her instrument like tears, expressing the sorrow and longing in her heart. The notes echoed through the valley, reaching the very core of the Night Terror's being. Days turned into weeks, and Mira continued to visit the Night Terror, singing and playing her flute. She never lost hope that she would break the curse, no matter how difficult it seemed. Through her friendship with the Night Terror, she learned that he wasn't a monster, but a kind and gentle spirit trapped in a dragon's body. His name was Ignis, and he told her stories of the past, when he had soared through the skies with the freedom of a bird and the warmth of the sun on his wings. Mira listened, her heart aching for his lost happiness. One evening, as the sky blazed with colors of orange and purple, Mira sat beside Ignis, playing a soft tune on her flute. The melody seemed to pour out of her very soul, echoing through the ancient trees surrounding them. Ignis leaned closer, his glowing eyes fixed on Mira. "This is the most beautiful song I have heard in centuries," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. Mira blushed, her fingers dancing lightly on the flute's keys. "I'm glad you like it, Ignis. I've been practicing." Ignis remained silent for a moment, lost in the music. Then he spoke, his voice filled with newfound hope. "Mira, I believe you are the one who can break my curse. You have shown such bravery and kindness. Will you do one last song for me? A song of hope, of courage, of friendship." Mira turned to face Ignis, her eyes shining with determination. "Of course, Ignis! I will sing for you." With that, she closed her eyes and began to play. The melody soared, echoing through the valley, reaching higher and higher until it filled the sky. As the final note rang out, Mira opened her eyes to find Ignis bathed in a brilliant light. His scales shimmered, and his eyes blazed with a newfound power. In a voice that was no longer tortured or sad, Ignis boomed, "It is done. The curse is broken." Mira gasped as Ignis transformed before her eyes, shedding his old form like a discarded cloak. In his place stood a magnificent dragon. His scales now shone with all the colors of the rainbow, and his eyes sparkled with joy. With a mighty roar that shook the mountains, Ignis took to the sky, soaring higher and higher until he was nothing but a speck against the sun. Below him, Mira watched in awe as the valley transformed. The ancient trees that had loomed like gnarled claws now stood tall and proud, their branches heavy with ripe fruit. Flowers bloomed in every color imaginable, filling the air with sweet perfume. The villagers, drawn by the change in the valley, emerged from their homes to witness the spectacle before them, their faces etched with fear and doubt, slowly transformed into wonder and joy as they saw the Night Terror had vanished, and in his place was a magnificent dragon, a symbol of hope and rebirth. From that day forward, Mira was no longer known as the foolish farm girl, but as the savior of Evernight Valley. The dragon, Ignis, became the guardian of the land once more, watching over the villagers with wisdom and kindness. Whenever the sun set and shadows grew long, the people of the village gathered in the town square, their faces turned toward the mountains. And they sang songs of courage and friendship, honoring the memory of the girl who had dared to look beyond the darkness and had brought light back into their lives.